the Independent Electoral Commission, hailing the promulgation of the historic legislation that will introduce a new era of transparency in South Africa's political landscape. Under the Political Party Funding Act, which comes into effect today, political parties and their donors are expected to disclose all donations above 100,000 rand to the Electoral Commission. The IEC will then make this information public. The electoral body expects disclosures for the first quarter to be published before the upcoming local government elections, which for now are still expected to take place later this year. For more on how this law will be practically enforced, let's bring in IEC Chief Executive of Political Party Funding, George Mahlangu, who joins us now via our video link. Dr. Mahlangu, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks so much for making time for us. So here we are, the 1st of April. We've been counting down to this moment. Help us as a start place the significance of this. Political parties now expected to disclose donations of more than 100,000 rand. Does that mean we're at the mercy of their honesty?
Good morning, Ayanda, and good morning to your viewers at home. Yeah, Ayanda, this is a very significant piece of legislation as it seeks to promote accountability. It seeks to promote transparency in the funding of political parties in the country. And it seeks to promote or to protect the sovereignty of the country by prohibiting certain donations from foreign sources. Political parties are expected to disclose any donations that are above 100,000 but limited to 15 million per annum. These and from a single source. These are donations in kind, in monetary form, or combined. So the legislation provides that the donor donates to the political party, disclosed to the IEC, and the political party disclosed to the Commission. So we will know. So we call this a dual disclosure. So both parties have to disclose to the Commission.
How is the Commission ensuring that that does happen, though? I mean, there's been a lot of instances where we've seen both parties colluding to make all kinds of donations. If it's in the interests of both parties to keep quiet, then, you know, this information could be concealed from the IEC, surely.
Eventually, the information will come up, Ayanda, in a sense that the political parties the legislation provides that political parties appoint auditors. So the books of the political parties are going to be looked at by the auditor at the end of the financial year. The information may not come up, you know, at the time that we want it to be, but eventually it will come up as the auditor must look at the bank accounts that the legislation provides for political parties to open. So for audit purposes, the auditor will look at the completeness of all the donations received by the political party. So as I said earlier on, it may not be real time, but they are expected to submit these donations to the Commission on quarterly basis. So meaning that in an event that the donation has been made and the political party doesn't submit, you know, that donation for declaration purpose within that quarter, they would be found to have transgressed the legislation, and there are penalties to that effect.
You'd mentioned earlier on that this is for donations that are monetary and those that are in kind. Speak to us a bit more about the latter. Let's say I donate this round table to the Democratic Alliance, for argument's sake. Who is there, for instance, to evaluate the worth of this table and therefore determine whether or not it should be something I disclose, as one scenario?
Yeah, maybe to make a simple example, if a bus owner company donates 80,000 rands to a political party of his choice, and also donates the services of his bus company to the same political party to ferry the members of that political party from one point to another. If the service under normal course of business would have cost around, just above 20,000, then the 80K in monetary form and that service that is above 20K in donation in kind form. In aggregate, it would cost more than 100,000. So that has to be disclosed to the Commission. Yes, you probably sitting there and said, how are you going to police that?
Yes.
It goes back to the estimates that have to be done for audit purposes. The legislation is not watertight, when it comes to situations of that nature. And the powers that have been granted are very limited to looking at the donations that have been, submitted to us. We are not wielding a cane, to whip political parties if they make mistakes. Chapter 5 of this legislation provides that we must provide direction. So in an event that the political party has transgressed the legislation, we are going to provide the directions. But failure to correct our direction, then we will implement what the legislation provides we do. We can withhold the allocations that are meant for political parties moving forward until such time they've corrected the transgressions.
Fair enough. There's the online party funding system. That's where all of the declarations are meant to take place. My understanding is that the parties need to actually sign up to the system so that, of course, you can track whatever disclosures they want to make. How on track are we with that? Are you happy with how many parties have so far signed up to the system?
We've covered quite a great ground around this. This online party funding system, which was developed internally within the Commission, it is meant for record keeping and for disclosure purposes. I would also want to, educate, the members of the public that political parties are expected to keep records. Not only donations above 100,000, but the legislation provides that they must keep all donations, even a donation of 10 rands, donations of 40,000 rands. For record-keeping purposes, they will be in a position to utilize the system, this online business process that has been developed by the Commission. They can also use that for the preparation of their financial statements. We have trained all political parties that are registered with the Commission. When I mean all, I mean all the parties that are represented in these two legislative houses, which is national and provincial legislatures. But we've also trained political parties that are registered but not represented, as there are sections within this legislation that expect registered political parties to comply with the appointment of auditors, to comply with declaration of donations. They are complaining because at the moment they are not getting any money from the Commission. However, as the Commission were to do what is expected from us in terms of training all the political parties registered, and we did so virtually, and those who are represented, we invited them on site where we trained them on how the online party funding system is going to operate.
Yeah, the information that the parties themselves disclose eventually will make it to the public arena, will be made public. When can we expect that first report from the IEC, so to speak?
The legislation provides that the political parties must submit this declaration on quarterly basis. So what we are looking at submitting the first report. So the first quarter will end at the end of June. So we'll give political parties a month or two to prepare their quarterly submissions. By the third month, we should be in a position to publish this information in various platforms.
Mm. Speak to me about the different voices from political parties themselves. We know that this wasn't a move supported by all organizations. You know, in some respects, there's a belief that it actually disadvantages some of the big parties within the country. And I imagine they too might have voiced some of their concerns. Are there lingering issues still, even as we look ahead for the enactment of this act today?
Look, some complaints I under are that the expectations are onerous. Basically, what this legislation expects political parties to do is it expects political parties to improve their governance. At the same time, political parties are complaining that their traditional donors are going to walk away, as they are expected, to be known, they must, disclose who they are. They are complaining. However, there's a new fund that has also come with this legislation, which is called Multi-Party Democracy Fund. This fund, I think, it seeks, to promote transparency in a sense that it's a big pot of funds where the contributors can contribute money into that fund, and the funds that will be sitting, the money that will be sitting in that fund will be distributed to the represented political parties, similarly to the public funding that is being distributed to political parties. However, we're not seeing an uptake from the market, because what we have done as the Commission, we have promoted multi-party democracy fund. We've met with BUSA, we've met with South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We have written to top 20 listed JSE companies to promote this multi-party democracy fund, so that, the more money the political parties get, the better. Being in this space, I think it has taught one that a weaker funded political party arena will result to weaker democracy. So it is important that political parties get funded so that the multi-party democracy can be strengthened in the country.
And hopefully all the players see things the same way. Thanks very much for your time on the AM Report. Really appreciate it. George Mahlangu is the Chief Executive of Political Party Funding within the IEC, admitting there that it is uncharted territory. The legislation itself is not watertight, and so I imagine there'll be a lot of teething issues, at least within the first little while of this act coming into effect.